interested, and she actually packages AKAMU, and I was so interested in what she does. I was like, okay. So I read up on her profile, LinkedIn, opened Wikipedia, read a lot about her. I said, oh, I'd like to have you on my show. So I sent her a message about 4 weeks ago. Am I correct?
I think so.
So I sent her a message about 4 weeks ago, interestingly, and a couple of days ago, I just went back to my social media and I saw you can contact me on. I was like, wow! Okay, so social media bridges the gap right now. There's so many people that you've not seen before, you've not met them before, but once you have an interesting, I don't know, way of putting your message across to them, ask them for what you want specifically. Don't ask them for money. TOMYSYNE did not say you should ask them for money, but I'm saying you want a business coach, you want a mentor, and you want to follow their career closely, and you like to talk to them, you can contact them on social media. Interestingly, send them a private message. If they're interested in what you do, they'd contact you. So interestingly, that was how I met Mrs. Ijoma Ndukwe. Okay, so Mrs. Ijoma Ndukwe sells pap. Basically, she sells pap. So NWANYI, AKAMU, or Iyologi, you can call her whichever one of the two. But she runs a food processing unit, and interestingly, she's also a business coach. She's an entrepreneur of about 14 years experience. She runs this online course. She does this online course, training and talking about businesses and all that. So this morning, she'll be looking at our achieving sustainable economic growth and development from the perspective of an entrepreneur. Okay, so welcome you to our studios. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, TOMYSYNE, for having me on this studio.
Pleasure. It's all my times. Oh, you can see the color. You can see the color. So we're wearing the same thing. We're actually wearing the same thing, sir. Not planned, but sadly.
Great coincidence.
Great coincidence. Okay, so before we go into the topic of this morning, we have a very short package we'd like to play for you. Once you take a look at that, once we come back to the studio, straight to the discussion. Please stay with us.
Africa had concentrated on being a continent that exported raw materials and exported jobs. And when you do that, you remain poor as a nation. When you look at the manufacturing value addition from Africa, it's less than 1%. So what is necessary, what we need today, is a structural reform, economic reform of the continent and the country. And this is where Nigeria comes in.
We believe that we can really run with the idea of the small hydropower projects. That's going to address a lot of problems in terms of water supply, in terms of rural development, in terms of farm irrigation, in terms of so many of the constraints that are bedeviling our rural communities, and that's an area we would like to advance our current engagement with UNIDO. Secondly, the concept of industrial parks, having common facility centers, it's something we would like to take to the next level. We have a few industrial centers right now, but I think we can do a lot better in terms of providing the necessary facilities such that when businesses come to those locations, they are ready to move.
The federal government realized that there was no way to industrialize the country without giving Nigerians sufficient power supply, not only in the large quantities needed for industrialization, manufacturing, and for the growth of the real sector, but also good quality power supply. The federal government realized too that over the decades, there hasn't been a concomitant growth in investment in the power sector to match the rapid population growth in Nigeria.
The inclusive and sustainable industrial development, which takes people as a core, which takes the economic growth also as an important pillar, as well as protecting the environment, is very vital for Nigeria if we are to reduce poverty and increase prosperity and, of course, bring peace to this country.
It's been growing at 7% per annum. It's going to continue to. It has been based primarily on the oil sector, but it has a lot of potential, and we certainly see continued growth in our areas of business. I think that that potential can be improved by bringing in more diversified sectors such as agriculture, and the initiatives of the government seem to be going in that direction, and I think that this is a good thing.
UNIDO's role is critical in the sense that they're in a unique position where they have seen this work differently in different countries, and they're able to bring that expertise locally. The second confidence we have brought into it is that all the sectorial policies are going to be backed by law. Even the plan wanted to be backed by law. So there's consistency in application and sustainability. So when you talk about inclusiveness, you talk about industrial, when you talk about sustainability, you have the right structure in place to make sure that it is sustainable. So that's the program we have embarked upon in Nigeria, and it will transform the whole economy.
Welcome back. Okay, so you're still on AM Chart and I'm your host. My name is TOMYSYNE Ojo, and this morning we're speaking with Mrs. Ijoma Ndukwe. She is an entrepreneur and a business coach, and we're talking about achieving sustainable economic development and growth in Nigeria. Okay, so from the perspective of an entrepreneur, I think that's where we should start from. From the perspective of an entrepreneur, what does economic development mean to you as a person?
Okay, so I would say, we have to look at what the word sustainable means. So
Okay.
Sustainable development and then growth. Sustainable basically just means continuous.
Yeah.
Something solid, something that outlives you, something that, goes beyond today. So you're talking about the future, right? And then you're looking at development. Development, we could say improvement and growing, right? So taking something from wherever level it is and then improving for the better. So we're talking about continuous development and growth, right? And we're talking about sustainable economic development and growth. What it would mean to me as a business owner and as an entrepreneur is, how would I build a business that would outlive me? How would I build a business that will grow beyond today, that will go beyond today, into the future, basically? And how will I take it from where it is right now to wherever it is that we think we're headed? And you can't take away, your economic growth and development as a business owner. It's not exclusive of the national economic development and growth. It's quite interesting doing business in Nigeria. I believe that we would agree with that, and it's been quite challenging and interesting at the same time, trying to grow a business.
Okay, so if sustainable, I read one of the comments, I think you granted an interview, I read something you wrote down, you were like, your actual word was challenging. It is quite challenging. You just said that again this morning. Excuse me. Like, it's quite challenging to run a business, to grow a business in Nigeria. So looking at that, if the environment is that challenging, what exactly are these challenges? Because you mentioned it's quite challenging. I don't want to mention that, but you are. So because let's look at this basic things. These are the areas of the economy that would like to see improvements, that would automatically impact upon what the entrepreneurs are doing and the business owners are doing. So what are these challenges that you mentioned?
First and foremost, right, the importance of the SMEs, in growing the economy cannot be overemphasized. I mean, we've gone on and on with these conversations. How many people can, the banks employ? How many people can, the telecom sector employ, as it were, out of the 190 million recorded Nigerians, right? So we would appreciate the importance of the SME, in the general national economy, as it were. And then you're talking about challenges. The challenges are quite enormous. So you talk about energy, you talk about transportation, you talk about HR, you talk about funding and financing, you talk about, so if I go walk into a commercial bank right now, to take a loan to grow my business, because we're talking about economic development and growth, and you have to take a facility at 28 to 30% interest rate.
No, seriously, 28 to 30%.
Well, that's what it is with the commercial banks. So if I would have to take a facility to grow my business at that rate, I might as well almost be signing for the death of that business. So that's financing. Then when we talk about the energy issues, it's not peculiar to my business or peculiar to even just business owners. Interestingly, I run a cold supply chain in my business. So like when you were introducing me and you said that I sell pap in the raw paste form. There is no additives, there is no, nothing. The only thing is that no preservatives. So we preserve in the cold room. So you can imagine the amount of diesel we have to buy to make sure that we keep the product.
So power is really an issue for you.
Oh yeah, so power is an issue. And then when you also talk about transportation, my factory is in Abuja, and then we still have to, send the products across the different states to the different locations, because the roads or the rails, or we don't have, such mass, effective mass transportation system. Yeah. We use a technology in my business called the modified atmospheric packaging, right, to keep the product safe. It means that within a certain time, we can transport our product from point A to B without necessarily freezing. But because I can't put my product in a truck, say in Abuja, and be sure that if my truck leaves in the morning, it's going to get to Lagos at a certain time, it means that I have to air freight. So even with that, I have to air freight. So you're talking about increased cost. So all of these things, begin to affect your bottom line, and the only thing that can keep you in business is the resilience, knowing that someday, just someday, we're going to have this break. And then you talk about HR, right? If you're really not making so much as a business, and if you're keeping your eye on the numbers, because we're talking about sustainable, right? For the business to be sustained, it means that your eye is on your books, your eyes is on your OPEX cost, your CAPEX, and all of those things, right? Your working capital, your cash flow. It means that you may not necessarily be able to pay as much or as great a package as, say, the multinationals, for example. And this
Obviously,
is me just
because you really do not want to run your business into the ground. Moreover, the money is very scarce.
You understand what I'm trying to say? So because you're trying to make great use of the scarce and limited resources at your disposal, there's so much that you can do. It means that you may not, and I choose my words carefully. I haven't said you will not, because sometimes you really would get people who have the passion and who see who buy into the vision,
and
right?
Just stick with you regardless of what you give.
Exactly. So you may not get the kind, of quality staffing that would help push the business from its,
So even the intellectual capacity is a problem. We have the power. We've identified money. I think we would like to go back to the money part. So if the commercial banks do not give loans for less than 28 to 30% interest, now what are we really looking at? Because I know BOI, one of the packages you just saw, I know BOI gives out these loans, but quite a number of people that I've spoken to say something like the timeline, the drag is usually so long. So what's the timeline for a commercial bank to dispense such loan if you qualify for it?
So the challenge now is not necessarily the timeline for the commercial bank or the time. I mean, so BOI is fantastic. You've got Nexim, you've got all these banks, right? But most at times, as a startup business, now we started by talking about the importance of the SME in the economy and in the sustained economic growth and development. Sometimes and most times, as a startup, you do not have most other requirements. So they're asking you for the collaterals, they are doing all of those
so
things.
That's where the issues start.
It's part of the issues, right? And if you go as a startup business, say to BOI does single digits, so single to double digits. So you're between a 9 to 10% bottom line, which it's okay compared to a 28 to a 30% from a commercial bank. But then in the foreign clients, right, you get facilities for as low as 4%. Yeah, and longer timelines. But this is comparatively. And if you do not have the collaterals, it means you also don't qualify to get these facilities and all of that, and it's dragging. You're talking about timeline. Sometimes as a small business, it's the cash flow. It's that I need this today to turn out this, to be able to do this. And then if you're telling me that I would have to wait 6 months, either I get discouraged, I get demoralized, and I'm thinking, you know what, you keep your money while I try to find how to bootstrap, and maybe I'm actually speaking from experience, right? Have I tried to raise funds? Yes. And then when I hear that, you have to do this, do that, I understand due diligence, that this is not me saying, oh, don't do your due diligence. I'm just talking about generally, because some things are a bit more in paper than it is in reality. Right? So if as a small business person, I'm saying that, I need to get this turned out, I would give an example to really back up what I'm saying. So I need to purchase my packaging materials, and this packaging materials probably with production will take, say, a 3-month timeline, right? And then I come to you as a bank, and you say to me, oh, by the time we do all the documentation, it will take 3 to 6 months, right? Sometimes longer. So, but let's even say a 3 month. Let's take the lower margin. 3 months of the bank dealing with my documents and being able to release the funds, and another 3 months for production of whatever material it is. We're talking about 6 months. So you're looking at a 6 to 9 months, if not 6 to 12 month, timeline for me to go from an idea to reality, to bring my product to reality. It becomes challenging, it becomes daunting. It really does take guts, perseverance, patience. When I'm a Christian, so I will say, when the Bible begins to talk about virtues, you see yourself begin to live these virtues in reality. Running a business in the nation.
Okay, so these are the challenges that we've identified. Okay,
some of them.
Some maybe major challenges. Some of the major challenges that we have identified, and we see that HR is another thing. So I'd like to land on that, the intellectual capacity that is required. I know that for Nigeria to grow, I think about last week, we were talking about the young people, the people generally, job seekers, improving on themselves and pushing themselves out there. Don't just expect to get a good job because the jobs are really not there. So when you even get the job, do enough to make sure that you are ready. But from the perspective of an entrepreneur, how ready do you think that? Okay, maybe look at your workforce and look at the people. I'm sure that you've seen a lot of applications over time, and I know you interact with people from time to time, business coach, as a business coach. So now let's say, how ready do you think these people really are? Because they need to contribute to this sustained economic development. How ready do you think they are for that level? Or are they just, is it for the paycheck? Is it for their own personal survival? Or just...
Okay, TOMYSYNE, so I'll start from you calling me a business coach. How did I start to teach entrepreneurship? We have a lot of accidental entrepreneurs, and what I mean by accidental is also I'm looking for a job, I can't find a job, I go 5 years in the job market or 10 years, and as the case may be, and then I basically, it's like, okay, so what next? And I get myself to start a business. We don't have a lot of people starting businesses and thinking sustainability. We don't have a lot of people starting businesses and thinking continuity. It's almost always like, I need to survive. So running a business in Nigeria, running a business then becomes just a means of survival, right? And how do you take that and build it into sustained and sustainable economic development and growth? And my thinking and my suggestion is this: rather than teach us in the schools to graduate and get a good job, begin to teach entrepreneurship in schools. That was what led me to setting up Bube Center for Business Development. I am saying that, can we teach entrepreneurship practically? I'm not talking about business management and business admin. We have those courses in the schools, but it's just saying to you, oh, finish, go get a job. Finish, go get a job, right? But imagine that if from not even the tertiary, right? So from the secondary schools, we begin to say to people, what do you think you can do? TOMYSYNE, I'm sitting here, on your program this morning selling pap. I don't think I'm doing anything over the top. All I've done is take something existing, improve on something existing, found a way to package something existing, found a way to tweak something existing, and then put it out there. That's all I've done. How ingenious is that? I don't think it's so much work. When I say I don't think it's so much work, does not mean that it's not a lot of work. But I'm saying, if we can start, because even for myself, I've been in business, other businesses before Bube's Foods, right? But imagine, so for the records, when I got in the university, I was in medicine and surgery for 4 years. Wahoo, yeah. So I was in medical school. I was in medical school studying to become a doctor, and I knew from then that no way was anybody going to put me in a hospital. I hate blood. I hate hospitals. I hate, it just wasn't me. And well, interestingly, I flunked out of medical school, and I said, can I go to the business college? So I am sitting here as a graduate of the medical physiology, but I sell pap. I run businesses. I have a staff strength of over 25 people. I have the factory in Abuja. I've set up a distribution center in Lagos. I have a distribution center in Port Harcourt. We have our FDA license for export. We have our,
so you export as well?
Oh yes.
How easy is that? Because one of the things that boosts China's economy is the fact that a lot of people now produce there. And so there's a lot of export, which means currency keeps pouring into the country. But in Nigeria, we take in a lot. We import practically everything, our clothing.
But TOMYSYNE, do you blame us?
No, I really don't.
Because the truth of the matter is that if you are a manufacturer, and this is me speaking from a manufacturing point of view right now, I'll give you an example, right? I do not speak top of the head. I'm not speaking something that I learned from the books. Have I done courses? I'm the vice president of OMP 21 of the Lagos Business School, right? I have taken courses in communication strategy, intensive media relations, project management. That's neither here nor there. I'm talking to you about practical. So if you are a manufacturing company or a manufacturer, you are looking at your cost of production. We're not even talking about the prices. Because for me as a business person, I say to people, never fight a price war. Because as a small business, right, I'm working with my limited and scarce resources. So if you have someone like a TOMYSYNE who is, very wealthy, come into my industry and my space, and then flood the market, she will crash me, and then that's it, I'm out of business. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about low cost. Because your low cost is what improves your margins. It's what, you can be sure that, if I export, including all my costs, I can be able to make, make something to be able to sustain the business. Because you cannot sustain your business outside of your profit and outside of your cash flow, right? So, when we talk about the cash crunch and the depressions and the recessions and all of those things, then, it becomes interesting and interesting numbers. You now begin to see recession as a number. I'll tell you what happened it was in 2016 when the recession hit. So my packaging cost for one of my materials shot up by 135% in one day.
That's a serious one.
So this is me, a small business, trying to survive, trying to grow, trying to develop, and I'm hit with a price increase of 135%. How do I absorb it? How do I pass it?
Your price.
At this point, you can't even retain your price, because except you're saying to me that at my initial pricing, I had imagined that overnight one other materials will go up by 135%. Because if you talk about, you're talking about China. So if you talk about the Chinese economy, you can make projections to say, okay, this is the inflation rate this year, this has been the trend. So with this trend, I can say that in the next 5 years or in the next 3 years, because with technology these days, you really can't say, oh, this is my 5-year strategy, right? Because one technology will come in and then, mess you up. So I like to take a shorter term. So say 3 years. It doesn't mean that you don't have a 10-year vision plan, but in terms of your strategy, I just like to keep it simple. So I say, take your 3-year strategy plan, but you don't even know where the national economy would be within 3 years. I import my machineries, right? And then so the dollar, I remember so well that when I started to import machines in 2014, that the dollar was somewhere around 180, between 180 190 naira to a dollar, and then it skyrocketed to 500 and a bit, right? Wow. And then we have 350, 360. Even for export, what should be my benchmark? What numbers should I use? Do I use, say, a 350, or in the open market right now, it's between the 357 and 360. Do I use 360 naira to a dollar to benchmark my cost and my selling price? Or do I use 500? Because I do not know, if by chance that next two days or 48 hours from this conversation that the prices is going to go up. Wow. Why do you want to take such risks, really and truly, as a business person? Do you know how many times, even right now, that people have said to me, why bother to produce here and then begin to export, to the US and the UK? Why don't you set up factory in the US?
In the US.
Why don't you set up factory in the UK?
But is that cheaper?
In the long run, because we're talking about sustainability, and I've given you from, an economic point of view, where if I can say that if I set up factories, say, in the UK or in the US, for example, and I can assess credit for 4%, 5%, whatever the case may be, and then longer terms. I mean, so you have timelines for, say, 10, 20, 30 years or whatever it is, right? Even with the BOI, what is your tenor? They're my friends. I haven't gotten any money yet, but this is not about BOI or about Nexem or about any of this,
these are the
individual organizations, as it were, but this is just our reality. So if I say that I set up business, say, in the developed country, and I know that Ijoma, in the next 5 years, the rates are not going to fluctuate in this crazy manner that our economy fluctuates, I can make very solid, sound projections as a Niger person, knowing that I can even wake up to 135% increase, and I do projections based on 50% increase, and it never really just happens. Is that not sustainability, as it were? Can't I guarantee that within XYZ period I can do this?
So we kind of need to set a benchmark. The currency, so like our currency has been stable for a while in comparison to the dollar.
I'm listening.
Because we have 361, 360.1, 360.5, 361, and we've been like that for But I keep hearing the economy is stable, we're out of recession with about 2.5%, now 2.8%, and all of those numbers. Has that really affected your everyday running of your business? Has that affected the way you see things, or the things that you experience in your business?
So from the beginning, I started to talk about some things are nice on paper, and then some things are our reality. If there's really no funds, because, okay, so as a business person, let's take it to the customer, the consumer. If the consumer doesn't have the spending power to buy my product, how does that really, affect my bottom line? As a business owner, you're thinking about your customer, your bottom line, your customer, your bottom line, because we're talking about sustainability. Do you know how many times I've woken up and I'm saying to myself, can I shut down this business and focus on my 3 children and have peace of mind? Do you know how many times I say to my staff, can nobody just not call me on the phone? In fact, can I tell you the truth right now? I said to them, can nobody call me for the next 1 month? But hey, how can they really not call me for the next 1 month?
I get the idea.
You know what I'm trying to say? So
because things are so unstable.
It's unstable, it's unbelievable. Even in the manufacturing, I mean, I talk a lot more about manufacturing because that's the space that I play in. You talk about the numbers. For me to be able to get, when you talk about negotiation skills, then you begin to talk about things like business management. You're talking about negotiation skills. I can't really negotiate as much as I should or can without the numbers. So say for example, I come to you as a manufacturer and I say to you, I need 10 tubs of my product. I won't go too far. Just 2 days ago, I had a conversation with one of my suppliers, and then she says to me, for you to get XYZ amount, which is the lowest margin, you need to produce XYZ numbers. And I'm thinking, that XYZ number that I need to produce means XYZ amount to my pocket. Where is this resource for me to be able to enjoy this low cost that she's talking about? So you have all of those challenges. So whether we're out of recession by 2.5% or by 10% or whatever percentage,
we really cannot see it in the
tangibles, right? And if you are in the manufacturing space, you're talking about storage of your products and your raw materials. There were people who bought products at 500 and a bit. Because of the same uncertainties that I've discussed, right? They're not going to just crash their prices.
Yeah.
Because they don't know if tomorrow they will need to even cover up for the period that the dollar was 500 and whatever it was. All those losses, they need to, find a way to buffer. In fact, the guys who were purchasing my tops, initially when I started, we're talking about import, export and all, right? When I started the business, I imported the first set of my plastic tops from Turkey because of the machine that I had. I had to get it right and then find a local producer, get the molds and all of those things. I gave to this producer. When the recession hit, they couldn't import their raw materials. It was there at the port for 6 months, TOMYSYNE. I did not know where to purchase my plastic tops. Wow. I carried mold from Abuja to Lagos, Lagos to Enugu. I was looking for who has the raw material to produce plastics in the way that I needed. Then I found one person. I'm like, so I'm stuck with you, for life, literally. But you now begin to talk, so it's easy to say, have a strategy, change the material, but I've just told you, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't actually
overnight. Do we have plans to change the packaging? Yes. This is not just about Bubes Foods. This is me using my practical examples
to actually paint
a broader picture of what it is that is happening. And that takes me back to when we start to teach entrepreneurship and get people to begin to understand these things, so that when you're faced with these challenges, how resilient are you towards building a sustainable business that would in turn impact on the sustained economic development and growth, knowing that if you fail by chance, what it means is that
part of the economics.
You said you found me on social media. Yeah. You know how many followers that I have. You know how many people I'm teaching. Imagine for a split second that is say that this person who we are looking up to, who's made us believe that if she can do this with Ogi, it's possible. If she can fail, then I really do not have a chance.
And so it just derails a whole lot of other people.
It's a ripple effect.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. Okay, well, we're supposed to take a short break, but I won't want to take a break because this conversation is really interesting. Okay, so yesterday, you win. It's a You Win program. For people, viewers at home, if by adventure you don't know about You Win. You Win is this program that the federal government runs for about, they've been running it for 2 tenures going now. And what the federal government has done so far is to give money from the tune of 5 million to 10 million to different entrepreneurs. Train them, put them in a competition mode, train them and all that. And it comes all the way down to getting to get more. invest in their business indirectly. It's like the government investing in their business. So like they win this money for their business. But interestingly, they didn't get this money. So like those who won this money,
They did not?
so like yesterday, 2016, I think those who got that from 2017. This is August. They've not been given the money. So those who were awarded 5 million, 10 million.
Oh, wow.
And they spent a lot of time actually training. Okay, so we're going to be discussing the UN downtime or whatever it is, and the problem of such grants not being released on time quickly after this quick break. Let's take a break now. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. You're still on AM Chat. Okay, so right now we're going to take some questions. You can call our number and you can begin to contribute. Check the social media lines, and I've not gotten any message yet. So if you're sending in your messages and you've not seen my response, you can send a text message. You can send your question as a text and still will get to answer your questions. Okay, if you have any question for our guests, please send text message as quickly as possible. We have just about 10 minutes to the end of the show. Okay, so before we went on this break, we were talking about the You Win program. Okay, so these entrepreneurs had gone for training. Okay, first there was a competition, and after the competition, there was a training for those who qualified. So 1,000 young people across Nigeria, 1,000 entrepreneurs across Nigeria were picked, and then they went through a training, I think, for about a couple of weeks. And after this training, it was expected that money was going to be released to them. But 6, 7 months, 1 year down the line, they still haven't gotten the money. Now, for entrepreneurs who put, first of all, they took a break off their businesses. That's the first thing. They took a break off their businesses to actually get a bit of investment, because that's where we're really landing right now. It's the investment that I'm really concerned about. So it's difficult to get money from the bank. Okay, so now you go for a loan, as it were. You go for a loan, and it's difficult to get the loan. And then you now qualify for a grant, and then you don't get the money on time. How does that, what is that going to do to the business? Because I know, in layman's language, to me, I'm not a business owner, to me, I just imagine the business is dying already.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
that's the truth. Okay, so I am a firm believer and an advocate of learning knowledge, right? And so maybe we take this out of business. and look at life in general. Your mindset towards a lot of things, so whether we're talking about growing a sustainable business or, you know, life in general, has to do with how you perceive and see things that happen around you. I can say, oh, you know, there's no power in Nigeria, so I'm not going to produce my product. I can say, oh, you know, we don't have great transportation system, so and I won't bother.
I'll just restrict myself to Abuja.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So it's a case of how do you see things happening around you? How do you see? Because as a true entrepreneur, what you're really doing is seeing opportunities in problems, right? And if you look at the whole grant situation, this is not me siding for the federal government. I mean, I didn't even know that people haven't gotten their money. I don't, you know, haven't gotten a grant before, so I really don't know. But this is me saying, what can you make out of what is already happening? They gave you some level of training, capacity building. Can you take out the growth of the business from the growth of the entrepreneur himself or herself? So this is what I call aligning the entrepreneur and the enterprise. Okay. So you might as well just say, you know what, I haven't gotten the money yet.
Because they actually took placards to the government. Yeah, to the government house in Abuja. They actually took placards, and you know, it was a protest.
So can I tell you something? You know, I didn't even know this when I talked about mindset. Why are you taking placards? Somebody promised you something and hasn't given you.
So they actually took placards.
So it's more about an entitlement mentality.
Oh, that's another thing.
Yeah, so because before we got here, it's the mindset. It's you saying, you have to give me this. I deserve this, so give it to me. Why don't you look at it like, I don't really, it's not a case of I don't really deserve or I deserve. That's why I talked about mindset. Don't forget that I talked about the virtues, and I talked about resilience, and I talked about perseverance, right? So if you get a 5 million, for example, or a 10 million, for example, and you have a strategy document that says that to grow this business in the next 5 years, you need 100 million. After the 5 or 10 million, how do you raise the balance of the 90 million? If you do not have somebody else giving you a grant, can you sustainably grow your business?
To raise the 90 million.
To raise the 90 million. What if, so you begin to talk about fundraising, you begin to talk about debt investment, equity investment. So you have an investor who says, go ahead and do XYZ, and you're going to get XYZ from me as part of my equity. And then this investor says tomorrow, you know what, I can't even raise the funds. Not I can't raise the funds. I don't believe in the business anymore to give you these funds. What do you do?
Would your business die?
Would you let the business die? Or do you persevere to grow your business? We're talking about sustained economic growth and development. Will there be challenges?
No, before we continue, the number on the screen, please. So that we can have contributions from home. I'm sure our viewers are waiting for the number to call. Okay, so you were saying.
So I was talking about mindset.
Yes.
So the resilience, I can tell you. So I was talking to one of my mentors and my bosses. One of my bosses, I call him a boss. And he says to me, right now his business is in debt of $80 million.
Huh?
Exactly. And I just said to myself, how do you sleep?
Because that's the question. Okay, so the number to call is 07062500247, 07062500247. Okay, so we're waiting. You can ask your questions. We have a business coach in the house, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions on it. Okay, so.
You know, so it still goes back to.
Okay, hello, good morning. Good morning, sir. Introduce yourself, please, quickly. Could you raise your voice a little bit? Okay, so that was our first caller on the show this morning. Kindly raise your voice when you call, and you can send a text message as well. You can send us a message. You can send to our social media handles. Okay, so you were saying this.
So you know, I was talking initially, you know, at the end of the day, right, it's a cycle, it's a circle, it's interwoven. You know, when I was talking about accidental entrepreneurs,
yeah,
right,
so I think that's the issue with most of these people.
Yes. Yes, you would have times when you want to give up. You would have times when you want to give up. It's going to happen, and this has nothing to do with Nigeria. It's global. I mean, it's the challenges of growing up.
It's not peculiar to Nigeria,
No.
as it were.
It's not.
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about business challenges now. But do you have particular, peculiar challenges within our client? Yes.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. This is AM Chat. Please, who are we speaking with?
Okay, so I guess the lines are not favoring us today. Okay, so but hopefully we'll get a caller here.
Okay.
So it goes back to all of these things. How prepared are we in terms of building and growing a sustainable business? How did...
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
We can hear you. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Isaac.
Isaac, good morning. Thank you for joining us on AM Chat. Your question?
I try to set up a farm.
Okay.
What farm?
And I able to visualize the resources I have.
What kind of farm again? What kind of farm again?
A farm.
Snail farm.
Yes.
Okay.
So after I able to acquire a piece of land in Ogun State,
Okay.
I don't have enough resources to continue. But from Lagos to Ogun State, it doesn't
Okay.
transport yourself to go there, and they can only where you can have a shelter of yourself.
Okay. So what exactly is your question,
What
sir?
can
What can you do?
what can I advise you?
Oh, okay. So he has a snail farm somewhere in Ogun State.
I heard his question. So now, of course, because he said somewhere in Ogun State, I don't know where he is. I don't know how, But I'm an advocate of start small. We focused today on growth and development. But, Mr. Isaac, it will interest you to know that I started my business in my kitchen.
300 naira.
200 actually.
Oh, 200.
In my kitchen, between myself and my nanny. I know how to sieve pap. I mean, that's what I give to my children at, as infants. You know what I'm trying to say. So sometimes also, that is what I talked about, managing your limited resources. If you had really sat down to ask yourself certain questions, you may have realized that as opposed to setting up a bigger farm in Ogun, it may have made more sense. Now, don't forget that I don't have all the facts here. So I'm just speaking and out of a lot of assumptions. It may have been easier to pay more. It may look like paying more for a smaller space within where it's easier for you to get
access
to and access regularly, as opposed to I want to have a big snail farm in Ogun State. And that may have mitigated, and I use the word may because I don't have all the facts completely.
Okay, so Mr. Isaac, I think one of the things that our guest this morning has spoken about is the fund from BOI, fund from Nexim Bank.
Oh, Nexim is for export.
It's for exports, and then you can also approach the BOI. You can walk up to the BOI. You can also go for UWI as well. You can go to LSCTF.
No, but TOMYSYNE, I mean, to be quite frank, right? This is a real program. This is exactly what we were trying to say. Mr. Isaac can't go to a BOI and get funds.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so you need to start this business. Okay, so that's all we can take this morning. Although we have a caller, I'm sure that you have a lot to say. Okay, so you can send me your questions. I'll make sure to forward them to our guest. You can send me your questions on social media platform. You would see there we have MITV Lagos, we have MITV.ng, and mine is TOMYSYNE on Instagram, TOMYSYNE, TOMYSYNE on Facebook, and TOMYSYNE on Twitter. So you can send me all of your questions. We're going to look at them, and then I'll forward them straight. So I'll forward them straight.
And you will be paying me. Yeah? TOMYSYNE.
No, I wouldn't pay you. Okay, so I'm going to forward them to her, and I'm sure that once she sends me our responses, next week's show, I'll read out the responses, and then you can also call back. And I'm sure we're going to have you back She's from Abuja, and I'm sure that when next she comes to Lagos, she would love to come back. Okay, so it's been a wonderful time this morning, and we have so much to talk about, but our time is fast spent, and we need to go. So thank you so much, Mrs. Eduke, for being here.
Thank you so much for
and
having
please
me.
say thank you to your children for me for allowing you to leave home this early. So she actually got here. Another business practice was said last week: wake up early, arrive early.
Oh.
She got here about 1.5 hours before the show started. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Okay, so thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time. We had so much fun. We're talking about achieving sustainable economic development. So we take this short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Okay, so on the segment of the show, we're speaking with Sister Samantha. Okay, so there was a sister in front of her name, so that's why I'm called Sister Samantha. Okay, so we're speaking with Sister Samantha from London, and that's from Brahma Kumaris. It's a personal development center, and she's been with them for 25 years and practicing meditation to help people become spiritually, emotionally strong. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to ask her what that is all about. I personally to know.
So it's a spiritual organization, and we basically run free of charge a whole range of programs to bring about stability and inner calm.
Okay.
And so we're going to be touring around Nigeria. It's part of the Serve Nigeria project, and in that project we'll be looking at different courses, things like overcoming anger, stress management, positive thinking.
That's interesting.
And it was interesting that before you were talking about economic development,
Yeah.
and so here we're talking about self-development.
Self-development.
Because I think if you want to be successful, we need a clear head. We need a clear mind.
We need a clear mind.
And so if I'm able to nurture my inner resources of peace and stability and strength, then it doesn't matter what challenges I have in front of me in my day-to-day world.
Just definitely becomes.
It's easier because now I have a sense of what I need to do. And I think what's happened is that we have expected external things to give us support. And many things are breaking down now. And so the whole idea of this organization is to build people up from the inside.
From the inside out. So we're talking about sustainable development, economic growth, and now we're talking about personal development.
Absolutely.
So it's like to have a better nation, you need to develop the people,
Absolutely.
you need to develop yourself.
Absolutely.
So it's like, so how do you go about this? Because you said you're doing the Serve. Okay, please, what is Serve Nigeria project? Because when I saw it, I was...
Yeah, so basically we have 3 centers in Nigeria, and we've had these centers for the last over 25 years.
Wow. In Nigeria?
In Nigeria.
Wow.
Mainly in Lagos, actually.
Oh, okay, mainly
That's,
Lagos.
yeah.
But
And
I
so-
live in Lagos, and I
You
really
don't know
have
about it. So we'll have to give you the details.
Okay.
And so there was a project that started in Kenya. Kenya is our regional headquarters for the Brahma Kumaris in Africa. And they did a program called Pause for Peace. And they went all over the country encouraging young people and everybody else just to take a moment and think about what peace means to you. And so the whole idea was well received, and they wanted to do the same thing in Nigeria.
Okay.
And so we have many people who are meditating here, and they said, well, let's bring this message of peace to this country. And so the whole idea is to go around.
Also, you're going to the far north, to the east, to the west.
over a period of a few months. And so taking these courses free of charge to the people there.
Okay, so you have this particular one. I'm sure that you say you're going over 22 states, addressing different ages.
Right.
I think professional backgrounds to create awareness on pause for peace. Okay, so like you have a session on Saturday.
That's right.
That's in Lagos, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so please tell us about it.
So that's the session that's going to be on how to overcome worry, fear, and doubt.
Worry,
fear,
okay.
and
So
doubt.
please, she's talking about overcoming worry, fear, and doubt. Okay?
That's right. And so the reason why we have fear, and worry, and doubt in the first place is because there's a lot of fear, and most of the fear is actually imagined. It's like things happen, and what I think about it actually makes me scared. If that makes sense. Certain things.
I get it. I get it.
that?
So it's like it's not real, but I create the picture in my mind.
Right.
And it becomes something bigger in my, because I've pictured it in my mind, so it becomes an issue for me to deal with.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And sometimes if I'm not confident about a certain thing, then I imagine that it's going to go in a negative way, or this could happen. I imagine all kinds of possibilities, and actually sometimes it doesn't even happen. And we can spend weeks and months thinking about what might happen, and then the day comes and the person we thought was going to be there is not there. And so if I'm able to save that energy, when there is an actual situation which I need to face, I've got the resources to do that. There are times when there are real situations in front of them, we have to deal with it.
We're too fearful sometimes to actually even combat some of the situations.
Absolutely.
Because we've imagined, the other side of it, what will happen.
Absolutely.
And all that. Okay.
Yeah, and then we lose that power, and then when real situations come, I don't have the strength. I'm not prepared, and that's when I need to be prepared. And so teaching people how to balance, how to really save your energy for the times that you're going to need them, because the situation is not getting any easier for any of them.
I mean, that's the funny part. It's not getting easier in Nigeria. It's not getting easier
Anywhere,
in
London,
It's
anywhere.
So it's like
Systems
everywhere.
are breaking down.
So
Government
we need to have a grip of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And understand it.
And not just for ourselves, but if I'm stable, I can help my family, my community. If I'm fluctuating, if I'm not stable, what about my children? What about my siblings, my community? And so it's almost this idea that we have that, when I change, the world changes. We have this slogan in our organization.
Oh, when I change, the world changes. I love that.
And the first world is in my mind. Thoughts, feelings, attitude. Then, of course, my family. My husband, my children, my parents, my siblings, and then, of course, the colleagues I work with, my friends. And so this is how we can begin to change the world. We have so many conferences, and which we need.
That's true.
We do need them. But how much change is happening? We are talking a lot, but we are not changing.
We're not changing.
And it's nobody's fault because we don't have the power. And so I think what we tend to do is that we allow people to come to our events and to recharge. And it's not that we're telling you anything new. I think this is familiar for you. You know about this. But we remind people. We go, yeah, we get that. Let me start doing it.
Oh, okay.
And there are so many books today that we can read. But how much are we actually practicing?
Okay, so tell us about this event. So this event is taking place on Saturday.
So it's going to be Saturday, 6 till 7:30.
Okay.
I've just got the address here because it's my third day in Nigeria.
Okay, so 12 Shagamu Avenue off Egbeyemi Street off Association Avenue, Ilukweju, Lagos. And you have a number here? Do you want
Please,
it?
yep, can I?
Okay.
So the number is 0810 626 2866. Let me repeat that. It's 081 062 62866. And the event is how to be free from doubt, worry, and fear. And it's going to start at 6 till 7:30. So I hope you can make it.
PM.
PM.
Yes.
PM.
Nigerians,
It's going to be a great
PM.
event. And I hope you can make it as well. It's 6 for 6.
Okay.
It's not 6 for 6:30.
For this kind of program,
need to be
you
on
want
time.
Exactly. Okay, so they're going to be talking about how to be free from doubt, fear, and worry on Sunday as well.
Sunday, that's going to be 9 a.m. till 10:30. That may
Okay.
clash with church times, but if you are free, you're most welcome, and it's the same address. And
Okay, same address. Okay,
Same
so
topic.
that's on
And it's free of
success
charge.
through silence, and all of them for free. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me just give you the address again. It's 12 Shagamu Avenue off Egbeyemi Street off Association Avenue in Ilukweju, Lagos. So Ilukweju is town planning way. So just a little bit off, Anthony. All right, so we've been speaking with Sister Samantha from the Brahma Kumaris from London.
Thank you so much.
So you spent 3 days.
This is my 3rd day in Nigeria, and
Have you had Ogbono? Have you had
I'm yet
Ewedu?
that's today. Hopefully, I'm going to start. I spent many years in Africa, but my first time to West Africa, many years
Wow.
in Mozambique, and we have centers there too.
Wow.
So I spent 12 years in Mozambique, more southern and East Africa.
Wait, this is your first time in Nigeria?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and this is
So,
your 3rd day in Nigeria. So
my
Nigerians,
3rd
please
day.
let's give her a good welcome. Okay, so you're welcome to Nigeria.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to our show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's all we can take on AM Chats this morning. It's been fun, and I'm sure that you have those business questions. I'm sure you also have those questions on how to develop yourself and get yourself prepared, okay, for achieving it.